Hello, my name is James Rankin, and I did a session at the Citrix user group yesterday where we discussed improving XenApp performance, specifically Internet Explorer performance on XenApp, by using a feature known as Internet Explorer tracking protection, which is essentially an ad blocker. And the reason that we used Internet Explorer tracking protection rather than ordinary ad blocking add-ons such as AdBlock Plus and uBlock Origin, things like that, is because in my experience I've found it's quite difficult to get management sign off onto things like AdBlock Plus, simply because there's a perception that they're kind of like a third party free open source tool maintained by a couple of guys in a basement somewhere. And the ironic thing about that is that Internet Explorer tracking protection we're actually going to configure with the AdBlock Plus list essentially, but because it's almost in quotes an Internet Explorer feature, as it were, it kind of gives management that warm fuzzy feeling that they can go and essentially choke Microsoft's throat if it causes any issues within their environment. And one of the beauties really about reducing the utilization of your XenApp servers and sessions by this method is that it's very easy to configure. You don't need to make any widespread infrastructure changes. I mean, you could block all these things at the firewall or something like that, or offload it all onto the client should you want to do that through a Citrix policy. But essentially this is just almost putting in a group policy setting, refreshing your group policy, and all of a sudden you've got a big drop in utilization at least. That's the theory behind it. So anyway, I have my lovely snowy scene on my PC here, where we're looking at, and I've got my Hyper-V lab running. We have a couple of domain controllers up and running. We have a XenApp 7.6 Feature Pack 3 desktop delivery controller stroke storefront server sitting there, and also a single Windows 2012 R2 XenApp 7.6 Feature Pack 3 session host server running the VDA. So we're going to connect up to a session on that machine, and that particular machine has got I think it's about 4 gig of RAM and a couple of virtual CPUs. Yep, that's correct. So fairly low spec for a server, but literally it's not actually sat there doing anything except there's an admin logged onto it at the minute. So first of all, I'm going to show you, hopefully, how easy it is to actually go in and set up tracking protection. Now, there used to be a group policy object that you could use for tracking protection. I'll just fire up a connection to the storefront server here and log on. Yeah, there used to be a group policy object in Internet Explorer 9 which let you configure tracking protection through a standard GPO. Unfortunately, that seems to have gone away in IE 10 and IE 11. Microsoft up to their usual tricks again. So really, the only way to configure it is to configure it for a user, capture the relevant registry keys and files that it uses for configuration, and then we're going to put those into a group policy preference. And what I'm hopefully going to do as well with this video is just publish out a little XML export of my group policy object, which hopefully you can maybe use to just import straight in and use it in your own environments should you wish. So you can see from my green bubbly storefront window here that we have just a single published desktop post hosted on the server, so we're going to just launch that now. Hopefully should open on the right monitor, which it does. Excellent. As it says, this is just a client-side Hyper-V lab, so not remarkably impressive performance from there, but that's to be expected. So I've logged on as a user called J Rankin, and we're going to export the settings out of here, and when we're going to import them back in for a different user. So anyway, just to give you an idea about how easy it is, or how you actually go about setting up the tracking protection, I'll just open an Internet Explorer window. And once it actually renders correctly, click on the little gear icon at the top here. Oop, get rid of that the first time I've run Internet Explorer, obviously. Click on the gear icon and go to Manage Add-ons. Now, down in the add-on types on the side here, something like AdBlock Plus you'd expect to find in this sort of add-on here, but tracking protection is actually configured down here. And you'll see down here there's a little link that says get a tracking protection list online. So literally just click on this and it should open up another Internet Explorer window. Rather annoyingly, if you do this on Windows 10 on the non-LTSB branches, it actually opens that up in Edge, which kind of then fails to add it in. So that's possibly something Microsoft need to look at. But anyway, bizarrely enough, AdBlock Plus is there at the top of the add-ons list, but it's not actually add-ons we're interested in. So if we scroll down till we find tracking protection lists in there. And the first one, which kind of almost makes you think that that's probably the most popular one, or the one that Microsoft might want you to actually use the most. It's called Easy List Standard. You can see from the URL that it's AdBlock Plus. So we will literally just click on Add here. Pops up a little dialog box in Add a Tracking Protection List. It says that it helps you protect your privacy by filtering out some website content, but essentially it does actually block all those ads that run on third-party content delivery networks. And the good thing is, it's not just a performance issue. I mean, a lot of these third-party content delivery networks that host ads on a lot of the major websites out there can actually be hijacked, do get hijacked. You have malicious code running in there, sometimes exploits, drive-by downloads, all sorts of things. So essentially, not just improving the performance of your XenApp system, you're also improving the security of it, which is a sort of double win, really. So it's all good stuff. So we click on Add List. It should now be added. We have to actually close all of these windows down before we can go and validate that. So let's just pop Internet Explorer back up there. And if we go into the Manage Add-ons section now and click on Tracking Protection, you can see we have the Easy List there. So that's all set up and ready to go on that user. So what we're interested in, as I said, that user is called JRankin, and we've got another user called JRankin2 which hasn't got it configured. So we want to almost automate the deployment of that. Oops, sorry about that, just an email notification coming in there. Anyway, so what I'll do now is I will literally go, and first of all I had to do this with Process Monitor, but obviously now I've discovered where it stores its files, I know exactly where to go. So if we go into the user's local app data folder, into Microsoft, Internet Explorer and Tracking Protection, now in here you should see we have a file with a TPL extension. TPL stands for Tracking Protection List, so that's all good. This bit here, which is a GUID, really doesn't seem to matter about that GUID. When you configure tracking protection, it configures it with a GUID for the name of the file and the corresponding registry keys. You can use that same GUID on all your users. In my testing that I've done so far, absolutely no problems with just using that same GUID. And if you have to import it back in at some point, say you go out and change the way that you do it, doesn't matter if the GUID's changed, you can use the same one out there on all your systems. So it's all good stuff. So this is the file that it points to. This file is actually updated apparently. I mean, it points to a URL where it gets this file from and then stores it in local app data. It is apparently updated every 4 days, so it may be an idea to keep this file in a central store and have a machine where occasionally, maybe once a month, you go out and make sure it's got the latest possible update and copy that file into the central store. Should be quite easy for a decent admin to subsume that, or assume, I'm not sure what the correct phrase is, assume it into your your monthly update cycles of sorts. As I say, it's literally updating one file, popping it in a central share, and from there group policy preferences will propagate it to all of your target machines. So should be something that possibly you could even automate. You could do an HTTP get to the website and update the file in the central share. Plenty of ways to skin that particular cat. I'll leave that bit up to you. Anyway, that's the file system entry. If we then pop open the registry, and if we go into, what is that, minimized? Sorry, maximized, not odd behavior. In the registry, we've got HKey current user, software, Microsoft, Internet Explorer, safety, privacy, IE. What a disgraceful attempt at some sort of pun that is. Never mind. Into lists, and there is the GUID that matches nicely with the GUID there. So a bunch of entries we have in here. Excuse me. We have an enabled of 1. Last update time, that one actually isn't really necessary, so we're going to miss that one out when we configure our group policy preference. Name, easy list. Path is the key one. That points to that TPL file that's referenced here. TTL of 4, time to live obviously, and the URL that it pulls the file from, AdBlock Plus reference there. So those are the settings that we need to set up. So I shall log out of my first test user, which is J Rankin, and now once that closes down, I'll just log out of Storefront as well. I shall go to one of my domain controllers. So I'm now on one of my 2012 domain controllers, and I am going to run the group policy management console. So if I open up the OU that's got my XenApp servers in, one thing it's important to remember, obviously we're setting up a user policy entry for a XenApp server. The users don't sit in this OU, so we need to make sure, if we just look at the OU above, we need to make sure that loopback processing is enabled for our XenApp servers. If it ever shows me the settings. So I'm going to show all. Yep. User group policy loopback processing mode is enabled, and this is in replace mode, which is the common one. So obviously to apply this, these user settings in the context of the machine they're logging onto, we need to have that configured. Anyway, so we shall go to our XenApp servers OU, create a new, let me call it enable IE tracking protection. Just keep it in line with my own personal naming conventions there. So there you go, we've configured that. Here it is here, and now we shall go in and edit it. So what we're going to do is we are going to set up a couple of group policy preferences just to bring in those files and registry keys that we've got set up there. Sorry, first thing to do, we'll do the files. So what I have done is copied that file to a central share. So now we're going to actually configure it in there. So if we go to new file, we'll set it to replace mode, so it's quite aggressive, and we'll give it the path to the file, and luckily I've already got it ready for my clipboard. So there's the network location where my file's sitting, and if we literally just browse to that network location, hopefully we should be able to see that the file's there and verify that. So yeah, there's the file that we're interested in, so that's what we're pointing at. The destination file, if you're familiar with group policy preferences, you have to specify the full path, including the file name as well. Key bit to remember with this bit is put it in the local app data folder. If you're in a roaming environment, obviously local app data doesn't roam, so this sort of thing will give you the roaming of the solution as well. So just checking that all that matches, that all looks good. So we shall literally just click, we need it to run in the logged on user's security context as well to make sure it can write correctly to local app data. So that is now configured as we intend it. Next we need to bring in the particular registry key, so we're just going to set up a bunch of registry items. Again, we're going to switch these to replace mode, and the path we need is I can remember it off the top of my head. Luckily I have got this stored as well. The key path, if we remember, the key had the GUID in as well. So now we just need to put in the relevant value names. The first one was enabled, as I remember, and it was a dword value of a 1 to set it to enabled. So got that one done, and hopefully we can just copy and paste these in and then edit them as necessary. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them we needed, wasn't it? 4, 5. So the second one will change, and the next one for this is name, and the name was a string value. Let's change that to string, and the value was easy list. So we shall just apply that. Just check that it's got the same settings. Yes, that's all good. Next one was the one that's most pertinent, which was path, and that also was a expandable string value because we're going to put the local app data environment variable in there. And This needs to point. Oops, undo that. I've just accidentally pasted instead of copying. Pop the path in there now, and that should hopefully point us to our TPL file. Just apply that. And just two more to do. We have one that's a D word. It's called TTL, which is a D word value of 4. Excuse me. And the final one was URL, which is a string version, and this is probably where it fetches its updates from. Apply that. Okay. All well and good. That's all should be set up exactly the way that we want it to. So hopefully it's going to work straight out of the box, which will be a record for me. Let's just check that they're all in there. Yep, it looks very good. Looks very good. Excellent. So that should now be applied to our XenApp servers. So an easy way to actually test this would be literally to log on as a different user, jrank2, and hopefully has access to the same shared desktop. Just wait for it to connect there. So what we'll do is we'll literally fire up Internet Explorer, make sure that the settings have taken, which hopefully they have, and we'll then actually disable those settings so we can do a before and after comparison. So you can see this is actually a different user because of how we logged on. It's a new sort of user profile. Alright, so let's go in and have a look at managing the add-ons, and you can see right there straight away the easy list is enabled. Excellent. So now we're going to go in and be a bit crazy, and we're going to actually just literally remove those registry settings so that it is actually not configured again. So we've shown you how to deploy it. Now we're going to remove it just for a short minute. It was under safety, say lists. Right, so literally just delete that entire registry key, which I think, if my memory serves me right, should do the trick. Go into manage add-ons, track protection. Right, we have no track protection enabled. That's good, because what I want to do is literally give you a quick snapshot of the system performance. So, excuse me, I should not drink Coke when recording my own voice. Right, so we'll run the resource monitor up as an admin there, obviously what you have to do, and just let the system sort of show how it's idling away there. So you can see the CPU usage is like, CPU usage actually seems quite high. It's the trusted installer doing whatever it does in the background, possibly checking for some updates. Okay, so memory out of 4 gigs sitting at about 1.3 gigabytes. CPU usage is, I'm actually a bit annoyed that the trusted installer is taking up some of that CPU. I don't know what's actually doing. Is it applying updates? Might shut down the Windows Update service just so we can get it kind of idling along. Probably my fault for not running a WSUS server to keep these things updated. Can I actually shut down Windows Update? No, I need to run it as an admin. Come on, get with it. Get there in the end, you know. Oops, spelling mistake, dear mate. So let's just see if we can shut down Windows Updates for a second. Let's kill it off. Whoops. Just disable it for a minute. Not really good security practice. Please don't go around shutting things down like this. Let's try and see if I can catch it and kill the process. I may indeed know how to run Class Manager as an administrator. Sorry for taking the roundabout route to get there. What about run task manager as an admin? Oh, there we are. Okay, I was suppose that the only way to run task manager as an admin on 2012R2 and 8.1 is in fact to create a shortcut and tick the box to run it as an administrator. Rather interestingly, I did not know that. There you go. Wonderful learning curve of IT. Anyway, see if we can get rid of the pesky little fella now. Where are you? Right. Hopefully. We should now be idling nicely. Let's have a look. Yeah, right. So CPUs 1-2%. Memory 1.3 out of 4 gigabytes. So let's sort that by memory usage just so we can see which one's the greatest processors. So let us launch Internet Explorer and go to a couple of websites that I'm sort of familiar with the fact that they are not fantastic performance-wise. So we go to the register, and straight away you can see across the top we have some sort of animated ad sort of things kicking about on there. If we take a quick look at Task Manager, we'll see that Internet Explorer usage has jumped up a bit. Now let's go open another website. I know that a lot of people had a problem with the Daily Mail, should you choose to read it. And there's the old Citrix nag screen popping up. And let's just pop up another one. Let's go to, I don't know, IGN, which is quite heavy utilization wise for animated stuff. Right, so we've got these 3 tabs open now, which is, you know, not really, it's the sort of usage you might expect to see from an ordinary user, you know. And we can see here that we have a very big spike in CPU usage across both CPUs. Memory usage has had a sort of steady increase. Let's get a bit more granular into Task Manager. So we have 3 tabs open. We have 250 meg of memory in one tab and about, you know, a considerable amount of CPU, 157 in another, 50 in another, so mass is about 400 megabytes of memory being eaten up there. 3 Internet Explorer tabs. Not really a lot of interaction with them either. All of that memory is getting used up by this session. This is just one user session on a single XenApp server. So you can imagine if this is times by however many users you have on your particular servers, could add up to something particularly heavy. So anyway, let's close all of these down. And we should say straight away, over here, you see the drop off in memory just here. I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen. I know you can't see my finger. Drop off in memory down here. And the CPU drop is remarkable when we close that down. So, let that just tick on for a bit. And we shall run a command prompt. And hopefully, just to show you how easy it is to deploy this, we're going to just do a quick GP update. And that should put down those registry settings that we deleted and re-enable our tracking protection. And then we're going to go in and have a look at the usage of these systems. Excuse me. So let's just quickly fire up Internet Explorer. Let's make sure that our tracking protection has been re-enabled, which it has. Nice and easy. Like things that are that easy. That's really good. So let's just literally just repeat exactly what we did there. So we go to the register in one tab and have a bit of interaction with it. Now straight away you can see the ads are gone. We have none of the ads that we had before, and we see the little blue icon here some content is blocked to help your privacy. It's a lot less intrusive than the AdBlock Plus one, to be fair, and probably another reason that managers are more likely to warm to this as an ad blocking solution than AdBlock Plus. Let's just go back to the Daily Mail as well, and we should hopefully see a lot of the cruft has been cut from this website. Actually still quite busy, to be fair, and IGN as well. So yeah, a lot of blank space on the IGN website where we didn't see it before. So now we fired that up, the same 3 tabs as before. Let's have a look at the actual utilization. And memory usage has gone up slightly, 1.6, so it's up a few 100 meg. As we can see, one of the tabs, which is probably the Daily Mail one, is quite busy, but nowhere near as busy as it was before. So we've got about 100 meg in that, and about 50 meg in that one, and about 30 meg in another one. So the amount of memory that you're saving is obviously related to the amount of third-party guff that gets blocked out. But even so, compared to nearly 400 meg of memory before, we've got about 200 now. So straight away, we've got a 50% drop in the memory utilization, which, as I say, it depends on which websites your users are visiting and how they're composed. But as I say, a 50% drop in the utilization still not be sniffed at. Depending on the website, you could look at up at an 80% drop in your memory utilization in my testing. So, but the particularly we note is the CPU usage. I mean, it was literally all over before, and now it is almost just idling away. And that's the sort of big thing that you will notice on this, the amount of CPU spikes. So not only is your user going to get a more responsive session, a more secure session, you know, less contention for resources with other users and things like that. It's really, and you know, you've got the security perspective of stuff as well. It really is a dramatic amount of difference you can make to the performance of your sessions, and it's literally dead nice and easy to configure as well. You know, there's not a lot to it. So if you want to save, you know, anywhere between 50 and 80% of the memory utilization on your Citrix XenApp service for IE sessions specifically, then this is a dead easy way to do it. As I said, there's a lot of other ways to skin this particular cat. There's a lot of other ways to do it, but there's not a lot of configuration change. You know, there's no need to engage other teams. As an admin, you go in, you configure a group policy object, you deploy it. The last thing to mention, there is an exception list. I think you're very unlikely to do so, but if you find a website, I did find a really weird sort of flash printing applet that must have had some sort of link to a third-party component delivery network that no longer works. You can unblock it. The users can unblock them themselves, to be fair, and literally, if you wanted to unblock a website, the user way to do it, you do it like that. But once you've done that, you will see that there's a registry key written down here somewhere, if I remember rightly. Tracking protection exceptions, dead easy. So if you found a domain that you needed to unblock, as I say, very unlikely that you're going to affect any functionality of web apps by using this, but in the unlikely event, simply put a value into this key, tracking protection exceptions, with the domain name as the key name, as the value name, dword value, set it to 1 to enabled. You could maintain that as we've done similarly with a group policy preference. Nice and easy, dead easy to deploy, dead easy to update. So as I said, I hope that has been a useful thing for me to put together. And the last thing that I will do is I will literally export out the tracking protection file, if I remember how to do it. Yep, save report, and I shall drop this out onto a Dropbox link, hopefully. So that should be there now. And yeah, I hope that's useful to some of you out there. I hope you can make your users' lives a bit easier, and yep, thanks very much.